recording, and we may have a few people still filtering in as we go, but now we've got the recording going. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm so excited that we have Coach Lee Hopkins here to talk about boundaries. As I mentioned, some of my initial sharing about this, boundaries is something that is an ongoing growth edge for me. So I'm really excited and will be furiously taking notes as well. So yeah, I don't want to take up too much with my own yammering, because we are here to hear you, Coach Lee, and not me today. The format will be that Coach Lee will share insights, ideas with the awesome dry erase board. Even I love that you're using a dry erase board, by the way. It feels very like tactile and old school. And then there will be the chance to ask questions. If you have a question that you don't want on recording, we can always, once recorded questions are asked, stop the recording. We're scheduled to end at 12:30. I don't know. I have a hard stop to jump to another thing. I don't know, Coach Lee, if you have a hard stop. If not, if you want to stay, then I'm happy to leave it running if the conversation is still happening. So that's all the administrative details. Now I will shut my mouth and hand it over to you to get us started.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Coach Lee. Thank you so much, Dr. Rebecca, for that wonderful introduction. I love everything about what's happening in this space because it's very clear, it's very understandable, it's very structured, and that's what I prefer as an autistic person. So with that being said, I wonder if you're able to see this whole board. Everyone is, because there are more people in the room. Everyone's able to see all of it. Okay. Just want to make sure that I know what the boundaries are for you all. Okay. So who am I? What am I doing here? My name is Coach Lee Hopkins, the Social Connections Coach. There we go. Thank you so much, because I couldn't see it for myself. Now I can see all of what you can see. Social Connections Coach, I help people make more meaningful relationships in their personal and professional life. And one of those big things is setting boundaries and being able to understand the limits of what I will take and what other people can do in my space. And that's the big thing when it comes to boundaries. So let me ask you, first of all, when you hear boundaries, what's the first thing you think of? Do you think of people understanding you, confrontation, conflict, difficult? I see difficult in the chat. Clarity, self-protection. I love that. I love those. These are all things that I used to think of too. Like, first thing was difficult, scary, frustrating. I'm going to get hurt. Someone's not going to like me. So many things have swirled into my mind when I think of boundaries, but they're super important. And I wondered into my late 30s, why hasn't anybody taught me what they were? Why did people treat me like if I said them, I would be hurt? So that's why I've come to share what I do with others. And I found that boundaries are the most important thing that comes to creating relationships. So what are boundaries? I'm going to define this in the strictest sense of the term. Boundaries are just lines that mark the limits of an area. It's just a line. Just, you can't cross this line. That's the line that marks a limit of an area. And thinking about it in a simple term, think about it when it comes to understanding others. So boundaries being a line that marks the limits of an area, think of it as a me. Stick figures are intentional because they're just lines. You are made up of a bunch of lines. Limits of who you are. Limits. Oh, it's backwards. Oh.
It's not backwards for us.
No? Okay, thank you. Fantastic. All right, so the limits of an area. The limits of an area. This is me. These are the lines. This is who I am. Essentially, when I think about boundaries, I think about this is the limit. This is the limit. And so there are other people in their lives who also have these limits of actions, behaviors, or limits of who they are, lines that cannot be crossed. And I've been taught, and maybe you've been taught, to think about the lines outside of you first. Not so much you, but others. What are the limits of these people? Don't upset them. Make sure you don't cross their boundaries. Make sure you're paying attention to what's going on over here. I theorize that it's because our eyes are facing outward and we can see this, thinking about boundaries as limits or lines that mark an area. So we see this first and we don't think about ourselves. We don't think about ourselves. But what I'd like to do is help you shift that experience of thinking about other people and really hone in onto this idea that if you are not understanding who you are, that is knowing your lines, your limits of who you are, and sharing them with others first, the relationship is going to be stressed. This is a stressor for them, but it's more importantly a stressor for you. The idea of focusing on someone else's boundaries, their lines, their limits, their expectations of you first also harms them. Also harms them. What? That's not what I was taught. You've got to be able to treat people like you want to be treated. You've got to be able to be kind to everybody. You've got to be able to love everybody. Ugh, ugh, ew. They tricked us into believing that focusing on them first is real love. They tricked us. When you focus on yourself first, that is knowing the lines that mark the area of who you are, your boundaries, then you're able to know how you're going to respond more clearly in situations with other people when you run into their boundaries. You won't just fall apart because you've upset somebody. Oh no, what am I going to do? And you spiral. How many of you have done that? I, oh, I still do it. I still do it. Not as much, but I still do it. I got a framework to help myself stop spiraling. What if they hate me? What if they don't like me anymore? What if I upset them? I've got to fix their feelings. No, you don't. In fact, you're doing a disservice to them if you're trying to fix their feelings. You're focusing on their limits before yours. Now, what am I talking about? What do I mean by this? What I want to say is that we focus. I have this framework. It's me, you, me, we. Me is focusing on who you are and how you feel about your experiences first. Who you are and how you feel. I like to focus on feelings, even though I'm pretty analytical. Feelings are just the biggest thing. So your lines, if you don't know what your boundaries are, the emotional information is going to tell you. They're going to tell you. How do you feel about your experiences? How do you feel? Particularly when there is an event. How do you feel when X event? How do you feel when X event happens? This is what we must pay attention to in order to know what our boundaries are, what shape we are essentially. Where's that line? Where's that limit? In every moment of every day, you are feeling something, but you've been taught to dismiss that feeling. That's when your boundary gets trampled. You're just like, I don't have any feelings. Not a big deal. Nothing to me. I care more about you than me. I'll burn myself out because, that's what good friends do. It's what family members do. You burn yourself out. When creating these boundaries, finding the limits that mark an area, you want to ask yourself how you feel when this event happened. Angry. Are you allowed to feel anger? I know I wasn't for a very long time. Sort of. Sort of, yeah. I have to know where my line is, but when I let people blow past it, I get super resentful. That's another thing. I just did this in an extreme way for a client. I thank you for putting that out there because it's a really easy demonstration, a really common demonstration of how it doesn't serve this person. When you ignore this, you're not serving them. Ah, but your intention was. So if your intention really is to help serve them, you've got to take care of yourself first, right? You've got to have these limits, these boundaries marked in. And the more you know about yourself, the more you ask, how do you feel about these experiences that you're having? You can start identifying them. Now, the thing that messes a lot of us up and it has done for me for many, many years is that, um, when I set this boundary, because I'm starting to recognize how I feel, it's only after many, many, many times. It's only like you jabbed me many, many, many times, and I'm upset. Tell you a quick story. I'm old enough to have dated on Craigslist. I guess I'm weird enough to have dated on Craigslist. I've gone to Craigslist when I was younger, and I was looking for people. And this woman matched with me, and she was like, "Yeah, let's go out." And at this point in time, I had gone on many dates, and I had this belief that when I go on a date, I have to pay for everything and have to make sure that they are happy. Give up everything. Boundaries in full effect. Forget about how I feel. Just make sure you take care of this person. Pay for all the things, do all the things, be that role in the relationship, no matter how much I was upset and frustrated. I talked to a coworker about this date that I was going on, and he had said, "You know what? You're spending a lot of money." I took this woman to the Cheesecake Factory many years ago, and it was like $60, and she was late and all this stuff. And I was like so frustrated. I was telling him, but this date, I want it to be different. Coworker friend, please give me some advice. They said, "Hey, go Dutch." Yeah, just tell her, go Dutch. And so I told her the Craigslist date, told her, I'm going, let's go Dutch. And she was like, Dutch? No. And I'm like, okay. I really want this date. I really want this thing to happen. So, well, let's go somewhere kind of cheap. I'll come pick you up. Let's go somewhere kind of cheap. Let's go to like a Chipotle kind of sit down restaurant thing. And she was like, okay, yes, we'll go. And so I go pick her up. We get to the restaurant, and I'm thinking, I want to save money. I've been on so many dates. I feel so used. I'm just happy for this date to happen, though. Can we, you know, I'm just going to have a good time. I'm going to pay for it. It's not going to be more than $20. That's in like 20 years ago money. So we get into the restaurant. She looks at me, looks at the menu, looks at me again, and says, I'm going to order the most expensive thing on the menu. Ooh, ooh. How did I feel? Ooh. I was upset about that, but I didn't show it at all. I laughed it off. I ignored all this, how I feel with this. I ignored it all. And I was like, girl, I just told you I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of money. Oh, you must be joking with me. So I look at the menu to see what the most expensive thing is. And you know what she did? She ordered the most expensive thing on the menu. And by this time, I realized, only then I realized that my boundary had been crossed. And I behaved in a very bad way. I pointed my finger at her, told, no, you're going to get something else. And I told the waitress, she's going to get something else. I was yelling at her, and I was yelling at the waitress because she'd crossed a boundary. The thing is, the reason why I'm telling you this story is because she'd done it many, many times already. I just wasn't paying attention. I didn't know I should. I didn't know I could. I didn't know how to respond. When I told her that I wanted to go Dutch, she said, I don't want that. And I was thinking, ignore. Oh, I told her that I wanted to save money, and essentially that's why we were going to Dutch. And she was like, I'm going to pick the most expensive thing on the menu. But it happened many more times before this. And it was just, I ignored it. I ignored. And the reason why I did is because first of all, didn't know really how I felt in the situation. There was a belief that I was supposed to take care of. I was supposed to do. This is a part of it. My discomfort, if it meant their happiness, it's nothing. So we ignore those boundaries. Forget about them. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Oh, okay. Well, until it is, until you turn into a fiery monster screaming out the worst possible things. Because all the while I was building up resentment and resentment and resentment and resentment, and then boom. And the wildest thing, I'll tell you, the wildest thing is that after I drove her home from the date, I forget what she had for date. I don't remember. Blocked it out. I don't remember if we sat and ate or if we just left. But I could see myself sitting and eating because I was so disconnected with being firm on a boundary. After I drove her home, I texted her. I was so sorry. For many years after that, I thought if I had just let her get what she wanted, I'd be in a happy relationship. My 40-year-old me looks back at that 20 something and is like, you crazy. That wasn't going to happen. It was more of the disrespect and the boundaries and the explosion on a bigger scale would have happened. That's what would happen. And so the importance, I share this story with you because maybe you've seen this pattern in your life where you are not sure of how you feel, or immediately it comes into thinking about others, and there's no clear line. There's no clear line of separation between what you want or how you feel and how you think they feel and how you need to behave to make them feel a certain way. Maybe there's no clear line for you. And the intention today is to really get that line, get the tools to get that line straight as possible or clear as possible. Betsy says, does that have to do with a neurodivergent sense of what's fair, strong, and a sense of justice? Um, Fair, strong, and a sense of justice is a sense of I'm probably would have been able to answer that question if it was timed right. But is the sense of justice and fairness, um, I would think that the sense of fairness for me is to make sure people get what they want and not at my expense. I can't speak for all neurodivergents, but maybe Dr. Rebecca has some more insight into that. We could talk about that. But I think what's really hard about this is that for women and people of color, sometimes it's safer to acquiesce than enforce a boundary. Absolutely. So, absolutely. That she was behaving unfairly. Yeah, I thought that she wasn't behaving fairly to me, even though, and then yeah, I thought she wasn't behaving fairly to me. So, I've got more stories, but I'm going to hold them up so that we can continue on with this. The overall pattern that I've discovered after many times of having these blow-ups, small ones, big ones, catastrophic ones, every romantic relationship I've ever had ended in a, except for maybe my last one when I started to understand boundaries. And I was like, you go away. I want that power. I want to be calm. I want to be centered. I want to let them know that when they run into me, they get options to either dive in and enjoy, or if it's not their thing, then go away. But we're not going to acquiesce to that. So boundaries, boundaries. How do we get these boundaries to happen? Well, they start in small, small instances. Every time you feel something that's information for you, how do you feel when event happens? Now, the key is to be able to communicate, and that's what gets us stuck. How do we communicate what we need to this person? It's like, hey, you suck. Well, that's awful. By the time you're going to want to say something to them, it can't be this, because they're going to fire back at you. We need some better tools. We need some better tools. That's what happens. Another thing what I struggle with is trying to get them to see my point of view, like see their point of view and then see my point of view. Like, oh, you're awesome, or please don't. It's like, you're awesome. Grammar here. You're awesome. I really want to placate to you so that I soften the blow of what I'm going to share with you, because I'm terribly afraid that you're not going to like it. And if you don't like it, I'm going to feel bad because I'm responsible for your feelings. We may have been conditioned to be responsible for someone else's feelings. You're awesome. And all they hear is that when it comes to how you feel about whatever experience happened, it's not a big deal. You're awesome. It's not a big deal. We need something a little different to communicate that, right? So it's something in between um, you're awesome or you're bad, or you're good or you're bad, you suck, whatever. Something not directed to them. So I want you to focus, really, when we talk about setting boundaries, we need to forget that this person exists. Oh man, I know. This person, they don't exist to us. They don't. They don't exist. It's just me here. It's just me. You know what? I'm going to help you out with this. It's just me. It's just me. These are limits that mark the area of who I am. I want you to think about it this way. You have had an experience. I want you to ask yourself a question. How you feel about this experience, right? You have to identify the feeling first. First thing we want to do. This all happens within us, by ourselves. We're not thinking about how the other person is going to respond to us. It's like a rough draft before your essay. You just write it out. Journaling is great for this. Talking it out loud is great for this. I like to process things out loud myself. How do I feel about this experience? Mad, sad. I take it. I'm very happy. It could be that too. I'm happy about this experience. How do you feel about the event? When event happens, why? Why? Why that feeling? If you're upset, why? If you're sad, why? This is going to help you understand more about yourself. All this stuff happens internally without this other person, without the other person next. We want to refine our message. I'm going to give you a tool to refine this too. Why does this happen? So when I was going on that date and they got the most expensive thing on the menu, I was really upset. I was really upset when they ordered the most expensive thing on the menu. Why? I had told them that I wanted to save money. Even deeper, they didn't care about how I felt. Even though I was willing to do everything to make them happy, they could give a nothing less. I didn't know that until some years later. But that's how I felt every time I wasn't heard. That's why. That's why. That's why. Oh, I'm mad. And I say things that are hurtful because I'm hurt. This stuff happens inside. How do I feel when what happened and why? This is the deeper work for you. So this stuff is going to inform what you share with other people. It's going to inform how you share with other people because they don't know. We often leave out the why. We often leave out the why. But when you share, this is the part where you share with another person your experience. How do I feel about my experience? Let me make sure I get this here. Um, how do I feel about my experience? Come on. Oh, yeah. And to help you a little more with the um, understanding more about communicating boundaries, we've got this framework. Your needs, negotiables, and nevers. So when you have these experiences, the next thing you want to do is categorize them. How do you feel when the event happens? Why? Is it something you need? Something, an experience that you need to have again? Like it's a must. They need to listen to your feelings, something, an experience. Negotiables. We fall into the trap of putting a lot of things into negotiables. It's not that big of a deal. No, anchor yourself in the feeling of the experience. Do you like this experience and do you want to have it again? Nevers, an experience I never want to have again. Never, ever, ever want to have this experience again with another person. We want to be able to communicate, understand that for ourselves. Me, understand it for myself about all my experiences, as many as we can, and then why. And you will discover the shape of you. Essentially, you'll discover who you are and how you feel about things. The communication piece is next. And it's a very simple device to communicate. As long as you know how you feel, when what happens, why, you just say it. Say it. As cleanly and clearly as possible. You just say it cleanly and clearly as possible. An example of this is instead of saying, I want to be treated with kindness and respect, instead of saying, I want to be treated with, I want to be loved, instead of saying that, it's generic. Nobody has an idea of what love means to you, about what kindness means to you. You have an idea, but you have to explain that to other people. And when you can, it's going to be very helpful to give them instructions on how to treat you. How do you feel? Well, when a person, I have a description here, and I realize I'm running out of time. Got 3 minutes here. Okay. Yeah, so um, you could say quickly and easily to them about the event. Let me put this down here. When X happened, I felt Y. This is the simple formula. When X happened, I felt Y because. The next thing to do, if you are looking at your needs, negotiables, and nevers, you would look at this and you say, well, I would like more of this. I would like more of this. If it's a need, I would like more of this. If it's a never, hardly ever focus on negotiables. But if it's a never, never do this again. Not in such a strong tone, but I'd like not to have, like not for this to happen again. And you leave it. Allow them to hold on to their own feelings. Allow them to express. Really quick, if they do something that's undesirable to you, that's another experience. How do you feel? When this event happened, when they raise your voice when you're trying to tell them something, why? And you'll be able to set these strong, strong boundaries with people because you'll hold them accountable for these things that they do. It's a simple way to do it. I know it's not easy because their nervous systems aren't regulated to it. But if you need some support with that, if you'd like to learn more, you can check me out at patternsofpossibility.com. And I have some really cool sessions that I do. I'll drop my links and stuff in the chat. Yeah. I dropped my links and stuff in the chat. Yeah, so pretty abrupt ending, but I hope that I have given you enough tools to help you understand about these. And I also have the Boundaries Blueprint workbook I will send to Dr. Rebecca, so she might be able to disperse that to you all. But definitely hop on a call with me, check out one of my cool events, open coaching every second and fourth Saturdays, and social structured hour in the last Sundays of the month, as well as business networking that happens on the first Thursdays. Thank you
so much for joining us. I don't know who else has a hard stop like me. Do you have a hard stop, Coach Lee?
I don't have a hard stop. I have a few more minutes.
All right. So if anybody wants to say so, I will just close out the recording. And if